All right, is confession necessary? Well, first of all, Jesus probably wouldn't have created a sacrament if it wasn't necessary, if it couldn't help us. So you could argue just from that confession's necessary, at least in some way. And it is clear, however, from Catholic theology and from the Scriptures that you can be forgiven by God without confession. Pope John Paul II says that in Reconciliatio et Penitentia, a church encyclical. Jesus says the same thing in Luke chapter 18, verses 9 to 14. He tells a story of a man who went to the synagogue and personally prayed to God for forgiveness, and he went home justified. He went home forgiven. The Old Testament has examples of people like David in Psalm 51 praying for forgiveness and being forgiven without the sacrament of confession. So it's clear that sin, and according to the Church, even mortal sin, can be forgiven without confession. It says in the Catechism that you can have this experience called perfect contrition, where you are completely sorry for your sins because you sincerely want to follow God, not just out of a selfish desire to avoid punishment of hell, but because you sincerely would like to be an authentic Christian and because you love God. That you, in that moment of true sorrow or contrition, are forgiven of mortal or venial sins. So certainly you can be forgiven outside of confession. But the Church teaches that if your sin is a very serious sin, something that really ends your relationship with God and requires kind of you hitting the reset button, that going to confession would be a necessary help then. Because a personal relationship with Christ, which we're all supposed to have, isn't supposed to just be personal. A personal relationship with Christ is also something that happens in community. And if you have to hit the reset button with God through a thing called mortal sin, then you should go to confession at some point. You're forgiven the moment that you're sorry. With true sorrow, in perfect contrition, even of mortal sin, but at some point you should get to confession, as soon as you can, according to the Catechism. And that's point 1452 in the Catechism.